The update is stuck on 99%. For now, Blackwood Academy is yet to fall. Tick tock. My second memory was much sweeter. Again, I was met with a blue sky. This time, though, I was somewhere I recognized. School. I was outside, sitting under the bleachers, cross-legged on my jacket I'd spread out on the grass. Ahead, I glimpsed the cheer squad practicing on the field, catapulting their flyers in the air. The memory hit me like a tidal wave. I remember that day. I remember the stink of grass under my feet and the twisted nerves in my gut. The sun was shining, baking through my shirt. It was 3 days before the homecoming dance, and the day after I'd broken into Harvey Mycroft's office with Connor Marlowe and Joey Summers and found enough incriminating evidence to put him in jail. Information on a secret project he had been working on, Project Spindle. And surprise, surprise, our names were on the papers. Not just ours, his own son's and Rory's, both of whom had been missing from school for the last week. When a shadow fell over me, I glanced up. "Hey, I got your text." 14-year-old Connor Marlowe stood under the sun, and my stomach fluttered at his disheveled state, dark unbrushed hair poking from under his hood. Somehow, the sun's rays hit him just right and sent my heart catapulting. He slumped down next to me, burying his head in his knees with a sigh. "Why are we meeting here again?" "It's a nice day," I said. The two of us sat in comfortable silence for a while. I wanted to ask him if he was okay. I knew he wasn't. On top of normal teenage life, we were dealing with constant blanks in our brains, and the only one who knew something about it, who could help us, had been captured. I thought back to the night we'd broken into Mycroft's office. I'd been desperate to find Jasper, but the Mycroft house was empty, only the maid pottering around in the downstairs kitchen. Jasper's room had been exactly how he'd left it. After searching his father's office, we found documents on some kind of project, the same one Jasper had been talking about. He said we'd found it before, and our memories had been taken, before Joey could get a proper look at the papers and Connor raking through the digital versions on his computer. We were caught by the man himself. I had never been truly scared, terrified, because as a kid, I had nothing to be scared of. When most of my life was blacking out and waking to a cavern in my brain. I read books and forgot about the plots. I saw movies over and over again because every time was a brand new experience. With fear, though, I never fully felt it until Mr. Mycroft's door had opened, the man stepping through, and finding the three of us knelt on the carpet, our hands full of folders and papers with urgent and top secret, written in red ink, printed over Calibri font. The main objective had been to find Jasper and get him the hell out of there. But we'd gotten curious and stupid. He grilled us for 2 hours. And when I'd been sure that we too were going to end up with the same fate as Jasper, our memories snatched away like they were nothing, like we were nothing. A woman had peeked her head in, asking for Mr. Mycroft's help. "Stay here," he'd growled. "Sure," Joey had said sarcastically, holding up his hand. "Scout's honor." Mycroft left with a flustered look on his face, forgetting to lock the door. "Did he?" Connor rose from the chair slowly, grabbing my arm and pulling me up. "Yep." Joey let out an exhale, diving to his feet. "The idiot left the door open. Let's go." We got out of there fast, not before searching Jasper's room one more time. He wasn't there, though. Of course he wasn't. He was locked away somewhere with Rory. And I had no idea if he was okay, if a stranger was going to come back to school in his place. Blinking myself back into the present, I leaned back with a sigh. "Is this about what we found?" "No," Connor mumbled into his jeans. "Though, I have to admit, I never imagined I'd be at the center of a mysterious experiment with a name resembling a fairy tale. I let out a nervous laugh. We're just lucky to be out of there in one piece. And Rory and Jasper? He murmured. Something twisted in my gut. We'll figure something out. Yeah, lifting his head. Connor's gaze found the football field. He turned to me, suddenly, and he had a funny look on his face. Can I talk to you about something? Go on. Connor shrugged. It's stupid. Well, at least tell me so I can meme it till we're 35. He shot me a glare. Fine. With a huff of breath, his gaze went to the sky. It's stupid because this isn't really the time to talk about stuff like this. You know, when we're, kind of in a crisis right now? He sent me a sickly smile. But I figured if I don't tell you, I won't tell anyone, and I'll just keep it to myself. And, well, that's not healthy. And I read that bearing emotions isn't good for you. Connor! I nudged him with my leg. You're stalling. Right. He hissed out a breath, and when I properly looked at him, his fists were clenched in his lap, and a strawberry blush was spreading across his cheeks. I think I like someone. He said it so abruptly I thought I'd misheard him. Something erupted inside me, my cheeks blossoming red. I could feel them burning. I was already putting the pieces together in my head. Connor liked someone, and he was telling me out of trust, which meant I wasn't that person. My stomach twisted and swelled with the butterflies I'd been fighting since I was old enough to know what a crush was. I knew in the back of my mind that it would never be me. We worked more like best friends, but that didn't mean my heart wasn't hurting. God, human emotions sucked. I would rather have been an empty husk at that moment. I dug my fists into the ground. Oh? I sent him a smile, trying to ignore the sickly feeling in my gut. I hated that my body was reacting like that. I should have been happy for him, but my chest was aching. Who's the lucky girl? Connor's gaze skirted the horizon. Not a girl, Murra. Oh, I thought. Oh. Things suddenly made a lot more sense, and my heart stopped aching. I didn't notice I'd been staring at him with a stupid grin on my face until Connor poked me in my cheek with a frustrated hiss. Murra! He waved his hand in front of my face. Earth to Murra! Why are you looking at me like that? I shook my head, cursing my blazing cheeks. Like what? Like a tomato. You've gone bright red. I shook my head. My cheeks are always red. Not like that. I chuckled, edging towards him teasingly. So, are you going to tell your mom? Connor's smile faded a little. Yeah, but I don't know what she'll say about me, you know, as her son. I don't even know what I am, Murra. I don't know how to label it because it's new and weird and scary. But also, I feel good. Like it's weird. I can finally put words to these feelings, and I understand why I'm feeling them. His eyes glinted, and I loved the way he smiled when he talked about things and people he loved. Mom is awesome. I mean, she campaigned for a safe place for LGBTQ children against the mayor, and I love that. But I also know her. She'll probably say I'm too young to be figuring out my sexuality or something like that. I mean, I just turned 14. Connor. Plucking grass from the ground, I threw it at him, and he laughed, catapulting handfuls back. You're an idiot. I lay my head on his shoulder, and he smelled like fresh pine. and exotic plants. I knew in that moment that crushes were stupid. If Connor was happy, and so was I. Oh, he scoffed. I nodded, pasting on my serious face. Your mom's been supportive of you your whole life. Why would she stop now? And besides, you can realize your sexuality at any age. It's when you feel ready, and it's your choice to make, not anyone else's. Age doesn't invalidate you, and I doubt your mom would start questioning. She's the first person you should go to, you know? I took a breath. But it's your choice. As I said, it's when you feel ready. He chuckled, leaning into me. You're right. I'm always right, I said. Are you planning on telling me which boy it is you have googly eyes for? No, you're a total blabbermouth. I am not. You told everyone I had the plague in middle school when I touched that old piece of cheese. I smiled at the memory. I reveled in those that were still mine, ones that hadn't been taken away. That was your fault, I said, inching away. For touching the cheese. You're also changing the subject. Is it someone I know? Connor cocked a brow. Like I'll fall for that. A few hours later, when I left my class for the day, Connor at my side, I was jump-scared by Joey Summers appearing seemingly out of nowhere. The boy was wearing a fancy varsity jacket that looked 2 sizes too big for him, hanging off his shoulder at an awkward angle. Joey was tiny compared to the towering seniors, yet to have a growth spurt, but the color suited him. Vivid white and gold complementing pale skin and his usual mop of dark red curls sticking from a baseball cap. Joey was the favorite to join the football team in sophomore year, and I could see why. Ah, thank God! Joey let out a breath. You guys haven't been kidnapped by Mycroft's goons. Yet, I said. Jasper and Rory are still absent, and we need to get back in that office. Is that a good idea? Won't he be expecting us? Not necessarily, Connor said. There's some charity event tonight. The place will be empty. Joey groaned. I'm sorry. Do you guys want to get lobotomized? He turned around to face us. He turned Jasper into a shell of his former self. And you think he won't do the same to us? That guy's literally a comic book villain. Think about it. The villain always does the absolute worst before the heroes can save the world. Are we really going to chance it with Mycroft? I don't know about you guys, but I really don't want to go back to taking blanks like candy again. Joey's words sent shivers through me. We need to try, I said, keeping my voice low as we pushed past a crowd of kids. We get the papers. All the incriminating stuff that paints Mycroft as a psycho. You saw what was on his laptop. He's obsessed with us and the kids in our class. He's been messing with our heads since we were kids. Project Needle. Joey pulled a face. Stupid name for a project. Why not call it something cool? You mean Project Spindle? Connor said with a chuckle. They're the same thing, Marlowe. Joey nudged him, and Connor shoved him back. Anyway, I cut in. Connor's right. The best time to get into his office would be tonight. Everyone will be at the charity dinner, and we'll have more time to find Jasper and Rory. Joey clucked his tongue. Yeah, about that. He turned to face the two of us. His smile was too big, and I knew it well. The boy was practically vibrating with an energy, an elation, which could only be excitement. What would you guys say if I told you I had a thing tonight? Like, an unmissable thing? You mean a date? I smirked. How did you know that? Because you're smiling like an idiot. When I looked at Connor to laugh, the boy's gaze had found the ground. He wasn't looking at Joey. suddenly interested in the floor tiles. Instead of questioning it, I tugged at Joey's jacket. Is this so-called date the reason why you're dressed like you just walked out of a John Hughes movie? He pouted. It's called style. Joey turned his nose up at my own checker jacket. You should try it. At my expression, Joey sighed. One of the senior guys let me borrow it. He tugged at the front, ignoring how large the jacket was. Anyway, Bonnie Garrett is coming to my place for a project. Connor lifted his head. You call that a date? Yes. Since when did homework actually mean homework? He pulled out a pack of candy, sticking a handful of gummies in his mouth. So, what's the plan? The plan, Connor said, is we don't have one. As much as I want to find Jasper and Rory, we'd be much safer leaving it for a few days, especially since we came close to getting captured last time. We go on as normal and pray they come back. If they don't, then we go back to the office. Right, Joey nodded. And parental figures are a no-no? Obviously, I said. Remember what the sheriff said? He's totally under Mycroft's control. I pulled a face. Plus, it's not like they believe us. They've been labeling us with delusion since the blanks. Connor paled. Yeah, he spoke softly. No parents. Joey sighed. I could tell he wanted to say something before he seemingly swallowed his words and put on a smile. Got it. He lifted 2 fingers in a salute, gummies hanging out of his mouth. See you guys later, all right? Before I could speak, Joey twisted away from us, walking headfirst into a locker. Ow! He let out an explosive laugh and shot us a grin. I didn't mean to do that. The stupid thing was in my way. He was gone before I could even register the reddish bruise blooming on his forehead. Wish me luck, he yelled over his shoulder. Good luck, Connor said dryly. When he started forwards, his steps too fast, I hurried to catch up. So, that guy you like. Don't say it, Murra. I held my breath for as long as possible before I couldn't hold myself back. It's Joey, isn't it? He didn't stop walking, but his cheeks were blooming scarlet. No? Uh-huh. I poked his freckles, mimicking his words from earlier. You've gone red, like tomato red. I teased him all the way home until Connor ruined the mood. Do you think we're friends by circumstance? He spoke up suddenly, bringing me out of my reverie. What? Connor kicked a rock across the sidewalk. Our group, he shrugged. We've been dealing with the blank since we were kids, and Jasper was the one who brought us all together and snapped us out of it. The boy was staring at the ground. So, what I'm saying is, if none of that happened, the tests and memory loss, all the crap we've been through with Jasper's dad, would we still be friends? I had to think about that. Connor was right. We had been brought together by circumstance. I guess not, I shrugged, shooting him a grin. Are you saying you're thankful to be a human guinea pig? Connor responded with a laugh, though he didn't look up from the ground. I am partially glad, yeah, he murmured. Obviously, the whole blank thing sucks, but I've never been alone. I've always had you guys. And even when I kept forgetting you, part of me held on, you know? I nodded, suddenly filled with emotion. Thankfully, though, I turned soppy into stupid. Tag? Connor raised a brow. You want to play tag? We're in high school now, Murra. We're big kids. So? I tagged him before throwing myself into a run, ignoring his yells. Usually, the five of us hung out at mine to either plan or just watch movies. But since Jasper and Rory were missing, and Joey was busy, it was just Connor and me. When we were in my kitchen and I was making a soda, I glimpsed a sticky note from Mom on my refrigerator. At work. Back soon. The ink of the pen was faded, the edges of the paper curled and browning. Something cold settled in my gut, but I ignored it. Where's your mom? Connor sat on the countertop with his legs swinging. I shrugged, pouring myself a glass, watching the soda fizzle and bubble its way to the top. At work, I replied. My own words wouldn't leave my mind that night, echoing in my skull. At work, I said. Mom was at work. Connor and I were halfway through a random movie I'd found on Netflix about a haunted house, which was sending me to sleep, when our phones vibrated on the coffee table. Connor reached for his, frowning at the screen. It's Joey. He looked up and met my eye. He wants us to go to his place. Huh? My voice was groggy with sleep. Since when does Joey text us past 9 p.m.? Connor squinted at the screen. I thought that too, but it's definitely him. I sat up, grabbing my own phone. Joey's text flashed up my notifications. Come over. It's like 11 at night. I shot a skeptical look at Connor, who jumped up, grabbing his jacket. We should go, right? He pocketed his phone. His eyes were wide. What if he's gotten into trouble? Trouble? I laughed, pulling on my own jacket. Luckily, Joey only lived down the road. It's Joey. He probably needs you to help him set up Minecraft or something. I heard Bonnie is super into it. No, I mean real trouble. Connor raked his fingers down his face. Minecraft trouble? My mind flashed back to the sticky note Mom left, and my gut flipped over. Right. I reached for my jacket, suddenly very aware of how heavy I was breathing. When we stepped into the night, I shivered. I thought back to the sticky note, and then my gaze found our car still in the driveway. Murra? Connor was ahead of me. Are you okay? Yeah, I nodded, pulling my jacket around me. It's just really cold. Joey's house was too bright. That was the first thought that came to me when we stood at his doorstep. The windows were illuminated with light, as was the front door. In comparison, the neighborhood was dark. I caught Connor's uncomfortable look and shrugged. Maybe it's a party? On a school night? Connor whispered. When the front door swung open, I jumped. It took me a moment to fully take Joey in, though it wasn't the wide smile on his face or the gleam in his eyes that I took in. It was the splatter of something on his shirt. It stood out too much. Deep, dark red against the white of his shirt. Something warm crept up my throat. I told myself it was paint, that he was playing with paint. Or maybe he'd covered himself in ketchup. But then he rose both of his hands slick, the same color, the same sickening red, drenching his palms in a wave. Joey's smile widened. He was bouncing up and down, and his eyes weren't quite on me. They were someplace else. You guys want to come in? Everyone's here. Blood, I thought, my body freezing up. Joey? Connor was the first to speak, his expression catatonic. What did you do? His voice was shaking, but Joey didn't seem fazed. Instead, he grabbed Connor's hand and pulled him inside, laughing. Connor, Murra, you want to see this. he panted. "I've been waiting to show you. I call it an art piece, you know? True art. Literally freaking Da Vinci, man." Following Joey and Connor, I found myself in the Summers living room, but it didn't look like it usually did. Joey's lounge was old-fashioned and had a pretty aesthetic to it, ancient couches clashing with modern architecture. The walls were supposed to be blue, I thought dizzily. They were supposed to be blue because I knew it. I knew them so well. I'd known them since I was a kid, since I started rejecting the blanks and remembered more and more about Joey. But no, the walls weren't blue. They were red. They were covered in that same intense scarlet that had painted Joey's hands and shirt and face. Now he was in front of me. I saw it splashed across his grinning face. There are certain things the human brain can't comprehend, can't register, so it takes in things one by one. I saw the walls spattered with blood, and then my eyes dropped down to the floor and I found Joey's mother, or what was left of her, a squirming mass of red at my feet. Her head looked wrong, spattered brains and blood and bones spilling across prickly blue carpet. But she wasn't the only one. Joey leapt over the corpse of his mother and knelt in front of Bonnie Garrett, who was tied to a chair in the middle of the room. Her eyes were wide with terror, duct tape muffling her screams. Joey turned to the two of us with a wild grin. He stretched out his hands in a ta-da motion. "Her grandma passed away." Joey spoke in a voice I'd never heard, a hiss of excitement, of complete unbridled insanity. When I couldn't reply, and Connor only let out a whimper, Joey twisted around and grabbed something, a carving knife and a spoon. He held them out to Connor and me. "Her grandma passed away," he whispered. "And she's been so sad, guys. Bonnie's been so overcome with pain and frustration and fear. She's been crying every night. I mean, I didn't even know until she told me, and something..." He drifted off into a hysterical giggle. "Snapped." Stabbing his temple with the handle of the knife, Joey's eyes glittered. "I just knew. I knew what to do." He gestured to Bonnie. "She's still clinging on to hope. Hope that her Grammy will be somewhat better. Hope that she will get over her death, but that's not it, right? That's not it. You see, when someone you love dies, it's good, right? They like it. It fills them with exhilaration, the very concept of dying. No, not even dying. Feeling it. Pain. Pure freaking pain." Bonnie rapidly shook her head, struggling. "But we can make it better, can't we?" Joey's eyes glittered and he turned to Bonnie, dangling the knife in front of her eyes. "Why are you sad?" he whispered, giggling. Why are you sad, huh? You should be thankful." He leaned in close, so close, gasping in her face. "You should be thankful. I would give anything. Oh, God, I'd give anything to feel like you. Just like you, Bonnie. Just like you." Connor cried out when Joey slashed at his own arms with a knife, squeezing his eyes shut. But he didn't cry out in pain. His expression twisted, his eyes flickering open and rolling back to pearly whites. "I want her to feel like me," Joey whispered, circling the girl. "I want her to feel like me, and we will." He panted. "We'll feel like this together, Bonnie. You and me, all right?" I was aware I was walking backwards, stumbling into something. something warm, something moving. But I couldn't think. The world was spinning around me. The more I watched Joey slash at himself and strike Bonnie's face, choking on hysterical laughter, my thoughts grew foggy and distant. A scream was caught on my lips, but something else was crawling up my throat. Something was imploding inside me, and I couldn't stop it from twining its way around my brain and sinking into my brain. Bad thoughts. It whispered bad thoughts to me. Bad thoughts that had been pushed down. I was 7 years old again, standing in my bedroom doorway with a tray of cake and milk. Rory was in front of me. Her hands holding the Sleeping Beauty book were raised. She slammed it down, and I jumped. I screamed. Rory did it again, giggling, and I rushed forward. I dropped to my knees next to her and grabbed the book off of her. Rory lurched back, her eyes dark and hollow, her smile bright. With the book in my trembling hands, I stared at the red spattered on the cover. I ran my fingers over the red, closing my eyes when it pulled on my hands. It was red. So red. So beautiful. Tears were running down my cheeks, but I was smiling. I was giggling, laughing. When I raised the book with my own blood-spattered hands and brought it down on Marmalade, I did it again and again and again until warm arms were lifting me up and up and up in the air, and I was meeting eyes with warm browns, a friendly smile with way too many teeth. Just like the teddy bear, Harvey Mycroft murmured, his gaze going to Rory. It doesn't hurt her. Doesn't hurt her, I thought. It doesn't hurt her. That's what I thought again. The night before Connor Marlowe came out to me under the bleachers, and I smashed my mother's brains in with a rock, laughing at her pained cries, because I made her suffer. I made her scream. I made her beg to die. Because she liked it. It didn't hurt. I did it because I loved her. Harvey Mycroft stood in front of me in Joey's lounge. His shadow followed me when I took slow steps, my bare feet splashing and pooling red on the floor. I went into Joey's kitchen, opened the drawer, and picked the sharpest knife before stepping in front of Bonnie. It wouldn't hurt her, I thought. She liked it. She wanted to suffer. Like Joey's mom, like my mom, like Marmalade. When I was dragging the blade of the knife down the flesh of Bonnie's cheeks, my eyes found Mr. Mycroft. Next to him stood his son. Jasper Mycroft's eyes were half-lidded and not really on me. His lips pulled into a sleepy smile. Joey circled Bonnie, holding the spoon. Ring around the rosy, he sang, his voice a low drawl. Connor joined in. A pocket full of posies. Ashes. The lyrics were coming out of my mouth in a breath before I could stop them. Ashes. We all fall down. Joey bent in front of Bonnie and held up the spoon. This is going to hurt, he said. Like, really hurt, Bonnie. But you'll feel good. I promise. I want you to feel hopeless. I want you to tell me to kill you. I want you to beg. He dropped down on his knees, raising his hands in prayer. Can you do that for me? Bonnie screamed, and Jasper turned to his father. Am I having a nightmare, Dad? Just a dream, son. Okay, he whispered. Aren't you going to join in? Jasper blinked. He stepped back. "No," he said in a breath. "No, I would never join in." "Good. Keep watching, Jasper. Watch human beings turned animals. Twisted minds birthed to become the monsters that reside under your bed when you're a child. Aren't they beautiful, son? See, while they become animals that will only crave pain and hopelessness, you will be the one to lead them back to what they lost. You will be the window of light in the dark. Do you understand me? You will save them." Something seemed to prickle in Jasper's expression. He blinked rapidly and let go of his father's hand, pulling away and stumbling back. "Stop," he whispered. "I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this, Dad. Please, please don't make me see this. I don't want to see this. I want to wake up." Jasper's expression was frozen, his voice a sharp breath. His words came out in a mantra, but he didn't look away, didn't stop watching Joey scoop out a screaming Bonnie's eye. I watched, my own smile wide, anticipation running through me. She was going to like it, I thought. She was going to like it. When the spoon slipped from Joey's scarlet fingers, however, something seemed to snap, sever. He cried out suddenly, a monstrous cry, a howl of pain that sent my thoughts swirling once again. What did I do? Joey dropped to his knees before letting out a gut-lurching cry. I couldn't tell if he was laughing or crying, but the look in his eyes, what might have been actual pain and fear and agony, was drowned out by darkness, by hollow oblivion slowly taking over. There might have been a moment where Joey Summers realized what he had done, but that was all it took. The act itself was horrific, but coming to and seeing what you had done, what your own bloody hands had done, was enough to drive you crazy, enough to send you plunging deep down. Connor stood very still next to me. The knife was still clutched in his hand, but he didn't let go. I was very aware of the world clearing, the blood becoming a horror show instead of a fairy tale. Footsteps pounded around me. Men and women crowded around us. Mr. Mycroft ordered them around, but his words didn't make sense to me. His mouth moved, but gibberish came out. All I understood was, "Not yet. We've gone wrong somewhere. All production on Prototype B until it's peer reviewed. We've received good results, but I think we can do more. I think they can give us more." He gestured to Bonnie, and then Joey's mom. "Clean up the mess." His eyes flicked to me, and I remembered what I'd done to my mom. "All of the messes," he said sternly, and a hysterical Joey was dragged away. I was left to stare at the remains of Joey's mother and Bonnie's eye, which had sunk into the carpet. Maybe it was Connor who set me off. Next to me, he still looked catatonic, but his lips were curling, widening, until his grin was stretched across his face. He started giggling. I thought about Mom, and I thought about my empty house and the sticky note. Something cold ran down my spine and took over, sending shivers through me, snapping me in two. Tears started to fall, but I liked it. I enjoyed the screech that left my lips, the despair that filled me, bringing me to my knees. I laughed. I laughed and laughed and laughed, until someone was picking me up roughly and shoving me in the back of a fancy car. I felt my body fall across warm leather, and I was still giggling. I was still thinking about my mom, my sweet, sweet mommy. I wanted to do it again. No, I wanted to do it to myself. I wanted to feel like she had. All of that pain, all that fear. I wanted to drown myself in it. When the car lurched forwards, I was still laughing. Next to me, the woman put my hands in cuffs because they kept scratching at my face. Scratching, scratching, scratching. Behind the woman, once again, I glimpsed a shadow person, a blur of red hair. This time I could see her face. She was beautiful, almost inhumanly beautiful. Her eyes were sad. They didn't leave me, piercing me as I slogged through days, weeks, months, a whole year. Mr. Mycroft's office became more of a home than my own, and my brain was picked at. The redhead followed me, always behind me, always at the corner of my eye. Connor Marlowe and Joey Summers became strangers, torn away from me once again. Giant crayon X's appeared over their faces, blocking them out for the first few years. Though as I went day after day in a peaceful blur, that X over Connor's face started to fade slightly, breaking apart until he was no longer that 14-year-old mess of curls and clumsy smiles. Baby fat had fallen away, making way for a much curvier jawline and handsome features. I met Connor Marlowe for the 1908th time when I stepped inside the school newspaper club on my first day of sophomore year, and I caught his gaze across the room, old feelings I didn't understand coming back to the surface and taking full bloom. And all the while, the shadow girl never left my line of sight. I thought she would leave, crumble away with the memory when I clawed my way out of the memory. But she was still there. I could sense her. She was over my shoulder, in the corner of my eye, in front of me. She was everywhere. I wasn't thinking about her, however. When my eyes flew open, meeting the ceiling tiles above me once again, I was seeing what I had done to my mother, and it was enough to send me screaming, clawing at my restraints. My teeth gritted into an animalistic cry. The first thing I noticed was the noise in my head had stopped. Jasper was no longer hanging over me. The hole in my head, the cavern he had been poking around in, had been plastered over with a thick layer of mold. I could smell it, but the stink barely fazed me. Falling. That was what Jasper meant, I thought dizzily. Falling, he had said. Falling. The best part of falling was remembering. I said it to myself out loud, and then threw a cry which wouldn't come out. I was reaching, my trembling hands reaching for something sharp. The idea slicing into my own stomach and pulling on my own guts, scooping my own eyes out and mutilating my tongue, filled me with euphoria. Jasper was right. He was right. Because now I knew what I had done, that I had been a component of the Sioux virus, that my twisted, psychotic mind had played a part in turning my school into a nightmare. And then all I wanted to do was make myself hurt even more. I wanted it. I craved it. Laughing, I reached for what Jasper had used to cut me open. I wrapped my hands around the handle. The blade was so beautiful. It would look so good slicing through my skin, blood pooling. Like Bonnie, like my mother. I'd finally feel it. Complete numbness, oblivion. Giggling, I thrust the blade out, fog in my eyes. Connor, he meant something to me, more than a stupid crush, a friendship I thought would last forever. Jasper, Joey, and Rory, all of us were brought together by Mr. Mycroft and his sickening experiments, the start of what would become the Sioux virus. I wouldn't do that if I were you. The redhead from my memories was sitting on the edge of the desk, her legs hanging. I blinked at her. Who are you? She shrugged. It doesn't matter. The girl folded her arms. Have you heard of the very hungry caterpillar? The book? Caterpillars envelop themselves in a cocoon before transforming into a beautiful butterfly. The girl jumped off the desk and landed, jumping over bodies and phones. She picked up a phone and held it up. The update was on 99%. They've halted the update, she said, gesturing to the window. The outside, I mean. They're giving you time to stop it from the inside, so they can help you. I twisted around, searching for the others. Where did Jasper go? That's not important. The girl eyed the knife in my hand. They halted the update to help you, Murra. But you're not going to do what they say, are you? Her lip curled. You're going to do the right thing. The door rattled. Suddenly, a familiar cry echoed down the hallway. Murra? Hey, are you in there? I had to swallow a cry. Connor, his voice riddled with static. Do you still want to go to the movies? I'm free after class, and I've been looking forward to the new Godzilla. The door rattled again. Murra! His voice grew frantic, less static, more him. Hey, they're coming! Murra, let me in! It was in fear, mimicking his voice. Everything he had been. It was cruel. Then why? Why did I have to dig my feet into the ground to stop myself from chasing a ghost? I turned back to the redhead. What do I do? She cocked her head. Kill the king. She gestured to the classroom around us. And the queen, Aurora Michelson, whose brain turned the virus into what it is. And Jasper Mycroft, his father's sickening idea of the one who would lead you all back to logical thought, to your untwisted selves, which was the initial plan for Project Spindle, which was scheduled to begin on April 1st, 2021 at 10:57 a.m. Her lip twitched. Until the virus mutated and became this. It turned the majority of the school body into freaks, and the 20 of you, Mr. Mycroft's subjects, became something else entirely. A whole new species, not just affected by the infected video, but also by the mutation which thrived off of you. It learned and evolved, gaining more and more intelligence until it began to build itself back up from the remnants of the dead, creating something bigger than man. What was his original plan? I demanded. The girl didn't look at me. Why, it was a game of cat and mouse, of course. The 20 of you versus your unfortunate classmates. He wanted to know what you would do, with poisoned minds already filled with his ideals, bent out of shape and twisted in ways both horrific and fascinating. He wanted to see what would happen when lions are let loose in a field of deer, and if these subjects would overcome their twisted minds and find their humanity. Pain and pleasure are two very different emotions, but what happens if you combine them? Or better yet, cancel one out so the other reigns superior. The girl jumped onto the bed, dangling her legs. Jasper and Rory were supposed to be humanity and monsters, light and dark. Opposites fighting for different things. Rory to destroy and create havoc, to create hopelessness, and Jasper to bring you back to yourselves, to logical thought. There is no such thing as good and bad, or the theoretical idea of the soul. Instead, it is instinct versus restraint. It was a study of the human psyche. Project Spindle asked one question. If, when a person is pushed to the absolute brink, can they, against all odds, be brought back? And what if this was on a much larger scale? Worldwide, perhaps. That is what they were doing. Testing the waters is the phrase they used. Before I could speak, the girl sighed. But we all know that didn't happen. Spindle was abolished the second Joseph Summers ripped out the throat of a girl after being infected with the altered program. Prototype C was never peer-reviewed or had ever begun animal testing, never mind humans. After being uploaded to the school network, the virus immediately went to work picking apart the minds of your classmates, as all viruses do. It mutated and formed itself around Mr. Mycroft's original idea. But this time, it was tenfold. The Sue virus was born from this monstrous idea. Her eyes darkened. A human being without morals. Logic burned away in picked of emotion, making way for a monster that craves the opposite of what all humans want. Happiness. Aurora Michelson, the most promising of all subjects. Her poisoned thoughts of hopelessness filled the heads of every kid who dared watch that video, turning Mr. Mycroft's original subjects into exactly what he wanted, and the rest into mindless corpses driven by a virus which was already evolving into an intelligence. She turned to me. You've been stuck here for a year without the sky, the wind on your face, a year without the ability and even memory to mourn your own mother, who you murdered when you were 14 years old, and then manipulated to forget it over and over again. She caught my eye. Aren't you tired? Murra! The door was still rattling. Connor was banging on the door. Murra, let me in! Before I could reply, the girl strode over to the desk and picked up a saw, pricking her finger on the blade. So, drive this through your king and queen's brain and end this. You always kill the queen. Think about it. The faculty, 1998. How did the hero save the day? She killed the queen and brought the alien and its followers to its knees. Game over. The end. She held out the saw for me to take it. Kill Jasper and Rory. If you don't, you'll continue to live like a rat. That's all they're doing, Mara. They don't want you to get you out. They want to study this thing, and they don't care about what form it takes. And hey, if it gets bad, they'll just nuke us. You're just a rat. The blade of the saw spiked my hand, but I barely felt it. The people on the outside, I thought. How could they have gotten inside the school and bypassed the sentient virus and halted the update? He said it can find a cure, I told her. Jasper and Rory are the key to that. She moved closer to me. So close. And as she closed the distance between us, the familiar stink of rot and filth filled my nose, sending my stomach into my throat. And who exactly are you going to believe? Mr. Mycroft and his team who will dissect you the second they pull you out of this hellhole? Or me? Her smile widened. Your friend.